Hey guys, welcome to the SPL Rundown, your weekly look at all the SPL action. This week, I'm joined by Toli, F. Dot, and the coach of the Camelot Kings, Biggy, is here as well. You had a pretty interesting week in the SPL last week with a couple of coaches having to play, so I think we should just start it off right at the beginning here with the Kings versus the Valks. Thankfully, we have Biggie here to maybe break it down a little bit. The Valks sort of show some strength here. I feel like I say that every week that we see the Valks, but I mean they still don't look like the worst team in this league. But the Kings are just, I think, a little bit better. The coordination is a little bit better, and they take the set in two games, two kind of quick games, but two games nonetheless. Biggie, break down a little bit how this set was from your perspective.
I mean, I don't know. Like Valkyries is just like when I see a Valkyries game, I just don't want to watch it because it's like not because of them as players or peoples, but as like players or people, but they're five people on like 150 ping, and it's like, well, am I gonna watch Dragons versus Valkyries? It's like, no, why would I even bother? Like they're just, and it's like they do well enough to hold on to the early game. I think like game one, it was a really low kill game for like the first 10-15 minutes. Same
Yep.
game two, but like you just can't kind of keep up in the game. Once the game gets going and it gets a later game, you can't like mechanically keep up on that ping, and you can't build anything as a team on high ping because everything you play depends on ping, not like meta, right? Like
Mm.
you may play meta picks, but it doesn't matter if you can't hit anything. So to me, I feel like they did as good a job as they could. Really, like they stuck with us for the early game. I think maybe Johnny could have been a little more aggressive, especially in game one.
Mm.
But I don't think that playstyle matches kind of how Zara's wants to play, and I'm not sure like where they didn't really run it down anywhere on the map. He seemed a bit hesitant, Johnny, and then like once we got a bit of momentum, it was just kind of over for me.
Your thoughts?
You guys are a lot nicer about the Valks than I am, man. I listen. Like these guys have all throughout their history have had like, let's say, commitment issues, and I get why you might be disillusioned, but I watch this team and I'm embarrassed. Like
Mm.
this is like I you're totally right. The ping sucks. You're not gonna win. You're not gonna have a good time. But like I feel like you should put your best foot forward. I will say nicer things about the second match they played this week. But for the entirety, almost every time I watch the Valkyries, I'm just I don't know if I can swear. Sorry. I'm embarrassed. I think it's disrespectful almost. I feel bad for them a little bit. I feel a lot of it bad, specifically for like Johnny.
Mm.
I've been waiting for Johnny to enter the SPL for literally years, and he gets dealt this dog water hand, and it's rough. So like, yeah, the Kings did the thing, and Valkyries logged into the video game.
Sure. Tully?
Yeah, it just seemed like the Valkyries got really bullied in this set. If you look at their picks and bans, it was a little awkward to me personally. It still feels to me that the Valkyries are trying to figure out what their identity is. Like, we obviously don't know what it is, and it almost seems to them that they're still trying to figure it out as well, trying to throw things at the wall and see what sticks. Game number one, Zeros goes Jean Kui. Game two, he goes Neath. He gets crazy out damaged by Big Man Tings. Something along the lines of like 8,000 on the Jean to like 31,000's Big
Mm-hmm.
Man, I think, on the Rage. It was nuts. And game two, because maybe the ping issues, I'm not really sure. Maybe these are why he's playing these picks in particular. He goes Neath instead, which is a totally different style. So leads me to believe that they're still trying to figure things out.
I
Is
think
there?
they I,
Go
I
ahead.
think they just don't care. I think they're like, all right, our ping sucks. We're gonna lose. Oh well. Which the second game was the most knowing those players. The second game was the one of the first times this entire season I watched them put together something that they would have done on real ping. Like Nuwa in the hands of Emil, Neath mid for zeros. Like that was them putting their best foot forward. Johnny on the Apollo jungle. I that felt like a game that the Valkyries played played hard and got frustrated, and I think that led into the next set later on. I think it was Sunday or whatever, where they like actually played good smite. They still lost because of the ping diff, but like I have been. It's funny that I'm on this show because I have been very, very, very straight up rude
Mm.
to the Valkyries, and this is the first week where I saw them actually give a damn. And it didn't happen in game 1.
Sure.
It happened in game 2.
Yeah, yeah. Do you guys feel like the Valks should maybe lean into some more jank strats? I'm thinking back to like when Armada went and ran through that rival team a couple seasons ago at an MSI or something like that, and just played some like jank things like Erlang mid. I don't know. I am not a smite genius by any means. I'm just trying to think: is there a way that they can just sort of out jank maybe some of these teams and just try something that's just super out of left field to get anything going, or maybe just even have some fun in these games?
I think if they're gonna try to do that, it's not gonna go in the form of anything late game, right? Like they're gonna have to look for lane pressure, in my opinion. You can't really invade too much in this season 8 meta because of the penalties and stuff, but you definitely could go for like something that will completely fall off. Like maybe go Mannequin Scepter, Sylvanas support, anything that gives you that kind of pressure. Maybe help Emilito get ahead by having Raffer play that guy, for example.
Yeah, Biggie, you had some thoughts there?
I don't know, like I'm not saying that Valkyries would be like a top 4 team or anything if they were in kind of NA, and like I kind of agree with F dot that like maybe they don't care, but I'm telling you, like if I was coaching 5 players on ping, I would not show up. I would quit. I'd be back in Australia, like on the beach, man, like chilling. I would not show up as a coach. Like,
Yeah.
it's just like at a point, like especially it's like months and months, like you can't scrim properly. Everything they probably try just doesn't work out. Like the best thing they could do is, I think game 1 they had was like the better draft, like kind of for the way they have to play, where like Johnny's on a super high pressure jungler, Ducky was on something kind of aggressive, Rafa was on something aggressive, but they just didn't play it. Like for them to win games, they need Johnny to play super aggressive, and they need Johnny to win them sets. Like he needs to be like 6-0, 7-0 at like 15 minutes, and then kind of Zyrus and Emil just come in and just do the thing late game. But other than that, if Johnny's not popping off in the first 10-15 minutes, they're just never going to win a game. Like based on
Why
ping
aren't
as
they
well
here?
for me.
Visa
They
issues.
don't have visas. Like you can't get an interview.
Yeah.
Like Big Man booked an interview at the start of the year. He got it for September, and then it got cancelled. And he just got given a new one recently, or like maybe a little while ago, and it's like next March.
Yeah, I heard Rapper got an
so it's
interview
like-
in 2022 as well.
And Sam hasn't, like genetics hasn't even been approved yet. Like,
That's rough.
they can't get. I think they all have visas except for maybe ML, but they just can't get interviews to get into the country. So
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a combination of COVID and just the election and changing a huge amount of government officials. I think it's just been
Right.
an unfortunate situation. All right, let's move on to the next set of the week: the Bolts versus the Scarabs. This is a bit of a weird set. Finally, we get some games in the studio, but unfortunately, no Solo Troll in the solo lane. We have the coach subbing in for Solo Troll. There was a bit of miscommunication about some vaccination stuff, so unfortunately, Solo was not able to play in this set. Really good look here from the Bolts, though. I think they got a really early Fire Giant in game 1, something like 19 minutes, and they just snowballed real hard. And game 2, I don't know, 2 really quick games, both under 25 minutes. Maybe the Scarabs a little shell-shocked not having their normal solo laner in there and having to play with Slaney, I think. I think the Bolts just are looking like the best team in the league. Is that how you guys are feeling now?
yeah, I mean, yeah, but not based on this set. I mean,
Sure.
I think this is like similar to our set, right, against Valkyries. It's like I don't really want to watch Valkyries games. I don't want to watch coaches play SPL, right? Like, I don't want to play SPL, and I don't want to watch coaches like
Sure. Yeah.
playing Guardians and just losing every totem and just sitting under their tower. Like, and it's not their fault, but it's like you don't play the game day in day out. You don't play that role. Like the solo role, especially, is so like it's built on like really like micro interactions in the lane and like how you poke and like where you stand in the lane and like whether you go on when you like poke the god or you clear the wave, like timings to blue, back camps, when can I back, like, and you don't know these things unless you play the game day in day out. So like I think Slaney did the best job he could. He didn't feed and he did fine, but they were also just kind of inting on the other side of the map. So it's like
a little bit.
It wasn't his fault that they lost, but it's also like you don't want to see that, like you want to see Solo Troll playing Warriors. with
There
two vaccines.
was
So.
one specific play in the Xing Chen game where I was like, that's the coach, like, because these coaches are high level players, right? Like, theoretically. And like, so Xing Chen, middle lane, comes in, goes, I saw you, Biggie.
I mean, hey, I'm not a high level player.
Well, the Xing Chen comes in and he like ults in the middle lane, and like Tiamat jumps over the ult and somebody else avoids it and they punish him. If that's SOT playing Xing Chen, they nail that ult and it's a fantastic team fight, and like here come the scarabs, right? Like that was the big difference. Like Biggie said, he didn't feed. I just yeah, I don't want to watch coaches play in the SPL.
I mean, it's kind of hard to feed when you're playing Guardians in the solo lane. You know, Xing Chen, not really known for feeding in his lane between the passive, especially with his build, rushing breastplate, going for the tyrannical plate helmet as well, which is, by the way, kind of good if you haven't tried it yourself. Go any Guardian, go that item, and your minions are very, very resilient, and you could just kind of use that to your advantage to out-rotate, since their minions are a little bit easier to kill. But it's more of an issue. Even if SOT was here, I still think Bolts win this set. At the end of the day, it would have been nice to see a full pledged 5-on-5 at first LAN ever in Season 8, or I guess first studio appearance in Season 8. So, bummer for that regard, but there were some good signs from the Bolts despite it. I think like we saw some strong play out of Venenu that kind of showed a lifesteal build that he actually carried on into his next set, which I think is a very powerful mid-mage build.
Yeah, thanks for bringing up Veneno. I did want to mention this was sort of the first time we saw the Vulcan in SPL this season, I believe. A pretty interesting pick for the mid lane here, as my cat wants some attention. What do you guys think about the Vulcan here? Is this something you think we're going to see more of, or is this maybe just a Ven spicy pick? You know, they're feeling themselves. No, Tom says no.
I just think a lot of picks got banned. I think there's so many strong mages, you don't really need to be playing Vulcan in the current meta. I just think they're like, he's probably just, if that's Dragons, he probably doesn't play Vulcan there, right? Like they've just stumped him. They're playing with the coach again. Like they banned 5 gods. He's probably like something he played once or twice in scrims. I was just like, hell yeah, let me play this.
Yeah, bit of a heat check pick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it was a confidence pick. I don't think he picks Vulcan if they're down 0-1.
Yeah. You think some of this solo lane thing has to do with confidence as well? Like, I imagine mechanically the coaches maybe are not so much different, but is it just like a confidence or a mental?
No.
No?
Okay, it's not even that, like, I'm telling you, I would like get owned by like SML players on like I would get owned by SOC players. Like the mechanics, nothing is close. Like it's easy to say like, yeah, I can hit abilities, like anyone can hit abilities, but that's not mechanics, right? Like mechanics is, when do I use this ability against this god? Like in this team fight, who am I going on, and like what am I doing, right? Like F was talking with the Xing Tian thing, like there's times like when I watch players play and I think I would never do that. That seems wrong, but like
Exactly.
But I'm not a player, right? Like, and I'm not going to sit there and be like, oh, you did this wrong on this. Like, as a coach, I never really talk about this stuff because I'm not there to teach them how to like mechanically play the game. That's why they play the game every day, day in, day out, right? Like, the mechanics are not close. Like, the confidence is not close, and like confidence is really important as well. Like, and it's nothing to like take away from Slaney. He's a fine player, but like, there's such a huge difference between like not inting and then being able to like be the other guy on the spectrum and like have a fine okay or a variety under their tower and just like stealing their blue, right? It's like miles apart.
Well, when we talk about these professional players, I mean, these are literally, we're having conversations. Are you the best in the world, right? Like, there is a marketable difference between professional SPL player and the top grandmaster, like Rando, right?
Yeah.
Like that's. I'm sure Slaney wouldn't be offended that we said he's not as good as professional players. He would probably be like, I know, dude, it sucked. Like, nobody wants to watch it. He doesn't want to play it. Like, it's just a bad situation for everybody. So, like, SOT clearly, like, had some issues, got to clean it up. I'm sure we'll talk about Julio a little bit later. Like, players, just don't make your coach play. Like, just don't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
save your coach from the solo
like,
lane.
like out of the coaches, I think like Rowe and Chocolates, for example, I think are potentially probably the two best players that are coaches in the game.
Hmm.
And Rowe proved himself, I think, playing SPL. But even then, like he was playing one or two gods, right? There was one or two gods where he was really, maybe three, I can't remember, like where he was really confident and could play well. It's like, if I'm going to kick my solo lane, do I want Chuckles or Road playing? It's like, no. Maybe after a year of scrims and SPL or like 6 months, like I think they have the potential, but like just randomly, like, hey Roy, like we're kicking variety, Roy, can you come play? It's like, no, like I'm gonna pick some SML solo laner before like him for sure.
Yeah, can we deviate from this game and like talk about like how bad did that situation have to be for them to go, yes, we prefer Slaney over Sot right now? Like that's rough. Like, because studio is one thing, but to make that choice,
Well, I think it was mostly because he wasn't able to be in the studio because of his vaccination status.
Yeah. But then they came out and they were like, yeah,
Oh yeah,
Stot's benched.
Sure.
We got Slaney playing, and I'm like,
yeah. How desperate must they be?
yeah, like that's, I don't know, man.
Yeah,
Rip that team for a while.
Yeah,
there's a lot of synergy issues for sure with that one, and I just wanted
Yeah.
to like piggyback a little bit deeper on the Biggie point that he brought up about mechanics. It's not just about hitting your abilities, like he mentioned. It's like understanding cooldowns, for example, in the solo lane. It's so intricate. For example, like one matchup just to bring up is like Guan Yu versus Achilles, where it's like, okay, Guan struggles because his Telosol gets counter stunned, but there's that cooldown time where it's like 15 seconds on the Telosol, 14 seconds for the stun, but then you got the mechanic of the dash resetting the cooldown, so you actually have a little bit of a window on your second rotation of the Telosol to still get awesome poke damage. So it's like little things like that is what the SPL solo laners do understand, whereas like coaches might not necessarily do that because there's like 113 gods or something like that to know.
Well, and there's
So-
4 other lanes and things that you got to worry about as a
Exactly.
coach, I imagine too. So
Yeah.
When I used to cast with Tolly, I would ask him these ridiculous esoteric, like, oh, so the 7th minion, what about that? And he'd be like, well, there's 32 HP left on it, so that means he's able to do. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, what a solo laner's brain? Jokes aside, a solo laner's brain is more similar to a fighting game player's brain than a mobile player's brain.
Yeah.
Like the footsies, the intricacies there in that lane are very, very different. And so that might be that in jungle might be the most taxing position to have your coach like jump in and play. And so just like I am unashamedly a Scarabs fan, and this really sucked. Like they just weren't going to do anything there. So I wish them luck, and I hope things kind of turn around, and we'll see what happens.
any thoughts about the Bolts here? I know we talked a lot about the Scarabs and
They're
Slaney
sick.
subbing, but Bolts sort of showed why they're at the top of the standings, right?
Yeah, I mean, I do think they win that set no matter what. Maybe
Mhm.
it's not as easy, Maybe the Scarabs, rest of the team plays differently if they are confident and they have their full roster there. But I mean, it's just Bolt. Like similar to that, like Bolts should be beating them with a sub in 20 minutes in both games, right? Like they
Yes.
just should be.
Yeah. You just gotta, like I said with the Valks game, like this is it's like a driving test, right? Like you just gotta do it. You can't fail.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if they didn't do this in 22 minutes or less, like you would ask questions about the Bolts even though they won. Like
Yeah.
so they
Yeah.
came, they were expected to do. I will agree that this team is looking really, really dirty. They're fun to watch. But this is sort of an unfair comparison. Even like on the good side.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about them being dirty a little bit later on. The Jade Dragons versus the Oni Warriors. A pretty suffocating set here from the Dragons. I think, game 1 was 21-6. Game 2, a little bit closer, I think, for the Oni Warriors. They were able to fight in a little bit until a late game FG, and, the FG engage just doesn't go their way. The Oni Warriors and the Jade Dragons are able to close out both of these games. Again, this is sort of the same old song here in the SPL. Jade Dragons, beating some of these teams that have some people on higher pings. Oni Warriors while they were able to make the playoffs, they've still sort of struggled quite a bit in phase 2, I would say. What's going on in this set, guys?
I mean, Warriors are like almost there for me, like with Valks, where I just think I think they have potential, and I think they will be a good team when they can be in the same kind of country and play together.
Mhm.
But it's I just know Fred is finishing scrims in SPL and like putting holes in his wall. Like he does not want to play on like 140 ping every day, you know. And Neil, even on like playing from Canada, Dada's from France, it's like I think they might kind of be a team as well. That's like not that they like give up, but I imagine they're probably a bit tilted. They're probably not putting in like 100% every day because it's like, well, what do we do? We're just half a team. Our coach is awake at 7 a.m. like trying to watch scrims and stuff. So or 3 a.m.
I'm pretty sure he
3
goes
a.m.
to
to
bed
like
at 7 a.m.
yeah,
that's
like 3 a.m. So, like Chuckles is there like half asleep, like Connie doesn't even know what to say. Like, because I remember when I first started coaching Dig, I was doing that, and like I would fall asleep all the time. Like start of SPL sets, and I was like, dude, I'm like awake. Like I go to bed at like 8 a.m. Like I don't know, my brain is fried.
yeah.
So I
By
just
the way,
think,
it's 1 a.m. for me here in Poland, but you know.
You're a night
you're
owl,
just
though,
that, you're
Tom.
just
Like
that
you're not
committed, I
fooling
guess so.
anyone. Yeah, this is
Yeah.
where you have the most energy.
Is that no? That's maybe that's why he didn't make yesterday. He was asleep, guys, in bed.
He just woke
Yeah,
up later.
definitely asleep in bed. Not 8 vodkas deep.
So, oh, I thought you
No,
woke
but
up
you
at
keep
3
going.
and went out for your $7 deal. I didn't think you were out partying.
My thing, I'm glad you brought up the ping thing for Oni, because that the Warriors are why I have been so aggressive about the Valkyries,
Mhm.
because the Warriors leave everything on the field, and then afterwards, like Biggie said, probably put holes in their wall. But like I see them try, I see them play, I see them like really give a shit, and like I see them like really do it, and I think that again, I feel, and that sucks, and I see the Warriors doing it, and I don't feel disrespected when I watch their games. I feel that's unfortunate, and like I said, this week made me change my tune for the Valkyries, so I'm talking about like yesteryear, like past performances, but that's always been my comparison case. Like people are like, why are you so mean to the Valkyries? Like they're playing on terrible ping. I'm like, so do the Warriors, and they play better. They seem like, and like I don't talk to any of these guys. I'm not in their comms. Maybe this is all like fake, but it just seems like they are like playing harder. They care a little bit more, and I will never ever be upset about watching Darnez play. Like,
Yeah, I mean the thing
I
is, yeah. The thing is like for us, I think we just get if I'm telling if we had one more player on high ping, I would be like, oh, I don't want to bother with this. Like, just call me when you guys are in the country. Like, we kind of get away with it, I think, because we do have like a really good, I think, structure as a team, and we do work really well as a team together. But also, Big Man is just really good, like at the game. So it's our support, but I mean, like the mental breakdowns like Genetics has had in scrims is like unreal. Like he's like, I can't hit orders, like I can't use my abilities, I can't jump this ability, like like two with two players, we kind of like we've found ourselves a way to like crutch kind of the way we want to play, and we have put in a lot of effort, I'd say. But three is where it's like it's a bit it starts to get like, I think it goes from like this is kind of doable to like very rough once you have like
Yeah.
three players on high ping. So
It might be something comparable to, like, let's say one basketball team all has shoes and the other one is just like has busted up soles potentially or are playing on socks instead of their regular shoes. So yeah, they could still technically play basketball,
Yeah.
but it's a pretty
yeah,
noticeable disadvantage.
Well, and everyone knows the shoes at 2 inches, right? So
Easier to dunk, exactly. There you go.
I did want to sort of focus in a little bit on the Panda Cat Artemis. I think him and Bera have sort of really brought this ADC pick back into the forefront, I think, with the midseason changes and things like that. Why do you think these guys like Artemis so much? Is it just the raw damage output that Artemis can deal with the stim and the attack speed? F-Dot, you want to take this?
it's the 2 button.
It's the 2 button?
It's the 2 button. Make Silver Branch go vroom vroom.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, Tusky is like hunters do not all have team fight ultimates, and Tusky is a team fight ultimate. Artemis, I maintain that most characters in Smite are pickable, viable, if not just good if you're good at them. Panic Cat has always been a very strong Artemis player. Like the tier list should be personalized for every player because like your individual prowess is going to make them better, like in a very real sense. It's not like other MOBAs where like you are kind of like tethered to this very specific meta. The idea that we play in seasons with characters unplayed is ridiculous. Like League of Legends, you play 20 characters and that's it, bro. And so like looking at, the idea that like, listen, if you have strong peel, there's no reason why you can't play Artemis. Just have to protect her a little bit more than on her, or whoever's got to jump, and you toss her into a meta where you get gifted, where you get bonus for high attack speed. Yeah. So like the Artemis, I am unsurprised to see Panic Cat playing and winning.
Yeah, he's been playing that since like his enemy days in season 2, led by Pain Divion. Now, granted, back then he was doing it with Blink, because of the because I think it was Chaos running Giannis all the time, so he had to get out of jail free card. Not so much with the Jade Dragons, but when you had that peel that FDOT was mentioning, like Final K game number 2 was playing Athena, right? That Tusky is going to do work when Athena pops those beats. So you're not only benefiting from a like mid-season meta change because of her 2 giving 80% attack speed, just synergizing so well with that Silver Branch bow, but it's also the composition that they kind of built around him. Like Panic Cat by himself can make plays in that long lane. We've seen it. He gets the solo kills, or he'll like get the TKO and force somebody back. But now it's like on a whole other level when he goes back to old faithful Artemis.
Yeah.
I'm smiling. I always used to call it the Totally TKO when you bring somebody down enough till they have to back. Hearing you say it brings back the old memories. But I mean, you bring up the Athena combo in game 1, it was the Cerberus combo. Like, when you look at these picks, there are so few like the Zhang Kui people were going like, oh my god, and I'm like, yeah, like what like why not? Like look at the So the Artemis, I'm happy to see her. I really like Artemis. Also, that passive, you just do 15% more damage to people CC'd, bro?
Pretty good.
That's insane.
Pretty good.
That's insane. That character is strong, man.
Yeah. The Tartarus Titans versus the Leviathans. A bit of an upset here with the Titans winning, but again, we had a coach playing solo. And, maybe don't need to talk too much about the coach not doing well in solo, but unfortunately Julio was suspended in-game for some words and typing some things. So I believe the suspension has been, 7 days. So, hopefully he will come back. I mean, I think...
Is it hopefully? Are you supporting toxicity? Is that what you're saying right now?
I support reform. So if you take your punishment and you come back, I'm all for you here. I think really the Titans are pretty happy that they were able to get a win here. I think that's the main talking point here is the Titans maybe get a little bit of their groove back here. A nice, easy, simple game. You don't have to worry about the solo lane to get a nice dub in the standings here. Anything exciting from the Titans here other than just, they took advantage of a team that didn't have their starter, basically?
I mean, Benji just coach abused. He picked for mana both games, just got every totem, put him under his tower, and then was like 4 levels above him. So, I don't know. I'm a little bit surprised that Panatom and Rongyu, maybe on the other side of the map, didn't really do a whole lot. But then again, I don't know, they did seem off. Like, I would say, despite having their coach playing, they kind of didn't do anything on the other side of the map when you kind of expect like that team to kind of run the game a bit more. I felt like Titans were being the aggressive team when usually I would think that out of the two, probably Leviathans plays the best around the map. So that was kind of surprised. I was kind of surprised how easily they got beaten, I guess, even with Ox playing.
Yeah.
I think it's a morale issue, no? Because like at the end of the day, yeah, you could isolate the long lane in a 2v2 in a deep vacuum, but still leading up to this set, they probably knew days in advance and scrims in advance that this situation was going to happen. So trying to prepare for it and seeing the results in scrims probably didn't boost their confidence going into this set.
I think
Also,
he actually. Oh, sorry. I think he actually got banned that day.
woof,
Like
Oh.
it happened just before the set.
Oh.
woof.
I thought they knew about it.
That's the worst that you could kind of run to. I also think that like Ronnie, like the reason Wrong Yu is like such an impactful support is because he kind of plays root beer tapper going to every lane and just like knowing that like going to solo isn't an option, meaning playing if solo isn't an option, like and I think this is, you know, when you look at the game at a closer level, it's there are like map regions, not just lanes. So solo's not an option, which means the right side of the jungle isn't an option, which means middle lane is lesser of an option. And, you know, like it all kind of culminates from there. And so it's not just as simple as like, I can't go help short lane. It's like this whole area where short lane would shade over and like help me, help the team. Like that's no longer like viable. And so I think that really kind of neutered Ronnie's entire like ability to kind of approach the game there, and like Tolly said, like everybody's just kind of feeling like dog water after that, and like just kind of like, you know, hurts, don't it?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's a good analogy after that. It reminds me of like basketball, right, where the defense has to rotate, and if you don't rotate fast enough, you know, you're just giving up points. And you know, when there's a weak spot in the defense and the rotations, you know, a team is always going to attack it and focus on it. And you know, you see this from every level of play, from like high school to NBA, right? If a play works, just keep running it, right? And I think that's sort of the same thing here, right? Which is like, if we can camp the solo lane effectively, just keep camping the solo lane and let's get the dub. So,
Oh yeah. Also, Benji is like. Sometimes I feel like people forget that Benji is just like a transcendent, absolute beast. Like he plays in the kitchen and cooks opponents like on the regular. Like that's just what he does. And like I have always, with the asterisk of when he cares, when Benji is like mentally logged into the game, he's better than most people. We have people like, you know, Fino and Variety in the league, and so we don't always get to see how crazy good he is, but he like really is that. And so you give him an inch, he'll take 3 miles, and this was an example of, you know, it was the Benji show.
He's the reason why United has that Cullen skin in season 4 after they won that, right? Like going into season 2, I'm pretty sure, if I recall correctly, that enemy set in Super Regionals, he brought that team on his back in that Super Regional team where no one actually, I think, predicted enemy to even qualify the Worlds, let alone the seed that they did and getting as far as they did. And Benji had a lot to do with it, but back then it was Salt Machine.
As long as he's not playing Fatalis Hercules, I'm a Benji fan, okay? So
Biggy, you had a thought? I wanted to get what you had to say there.
I agree with what these guys said. I think they also played Zhong. I'm so sick of seeing Zhong Kui, man. That god is so ass. Like, please stop playing Zhong Kui. Like, unless you're against me.
I can't wait till somebody pulls Jean Kui against you guys. It'll be the first dub, dude.
I'm sure it'll win eventually if people keep slamming it. Like,
Right.
it'll get a dub eventually. So,
last thing I wanted to mention here is I think we saw the Odin in the support role here from Aurora in Game 2. This is, to my understanding, the first sighting of Odin in the support role. I think we've seen a lot more Odin since this mid-season patch. Or is he going to be sort of the multi-role prodigy that Odin was? I'm thinking maybe back season 4. I feel like we saw him in support, solo, jungle, whatever role he wanted to be in. I think we're going to see a bit more of Odin as this phase wears on.
I can see it being a thing, but I'm also leaning towards exactly what happened where the Bolts ran the Vulcan, right, in that set, because it was one of those games where I'm like, oh, okay, it's not like a full 5-on-5 team where everybody's at full capacity. So it's like we could use this opportunity to experiment and still win. And Aurora in the past has played Warriors in the solo lane, leading up where in Season 5 Splice Days, where Divios would play most of the Guardians in the solo lane, there were times where Aurora would flex those Warriors as well.
yeah, my beef with I straight up think that was the worst of the two compositions, and they won because Coach Oxy was playing. You know, it's been a
Yeah.
long time since Team 404. So like, you know, Oxy, yeah, it was what it was. There was no hard CC, and it didn't matter because Romano was just big babying everybody. So Odin has a spot. Anytime there's people that can't get out of the cage, Odin is going to be worth a look. Like, you know, people don't overlook Odin, but this was not a good composition in my opinion. Like, they didn't have hard CC, and they just kind of like, you know, coach diffed. So
If I look at their composition, actually, it might have been a situation where they picked the Odin so that they don't get countered because they did have Amana, Hachiman, and Nemesis. So it's like, hey, let's
Sure.
just not get countered.
Any
Yeah,
final
I
thoughts from you guys? Oh, sorry, go.
I mean, you could just pick something else like in the way and then ban it out. But yeah, I don't know. When I saw this draft, I was like, this is like one of the worst drafts I've ever seen in my life. But like, they just kind of earned them anyway because Benji was like 4 levels ahead. But I think even
I was
they
about
would probably say that that's a like even the Odin pick doesn't make a lot of sense. It's like I guess it's against Artemis. Maybe they like it against Artemis, I guess. But like Sobek doesn't care about Odin, neither does Discordia. So
Well, they had Erlong. Panitum really had a rough game that, I think.
yeah, but I mean, Panaton picked Erlang into Odin, so like that's kind
Yeah,
of
it's his
his
fault.
fault, I guess.
That's fair. That's fair.
like the Erlang. I mean, the Erlang was picked because Leviathans had no like AOE crowd control. It was Sobek and Horus, like single target, and so like it was just. Put it this way, I was watching this game, and I was this composition got locked in for the Titans, and I was like, holy shit, Oxy might actually win the game. Like, this composition is so bad. And then Benji, like, you know, got a blue buff, and I no longer thought that. But still, like, it was, yeah, I'm with Biggie. This is, like, one of the worst comps. So, like, Odin is good. Odin is playable, to answer your direct question. Will he be the multi-role, you know, superstar? Probably, because at the end of the day, you know, games are really short right now, and that's where Odin shines. Like, he can jump on you from the jungle, he can jump on you from the solo lane, or even the support role, and cage is a cage, bro. But yeah, this comp sucked. So
Yeah, I think Odin's one of those gods. Like, I think ever since the boots changed, there's been a lot of kind of like cringy picks coming back into the meta. Like, there's kind of like Hell, for example. I think like those kind of gods are like Odin, Artemis, where like no one wants them in the game, no one wants to play against them, and it's like kind of a slight risk to pick them. Like if you pick Artemis and you don't, and you get owned in lane, and it's like so it's like people kind of don't, they really don't want to play against it, and they kind of like in a way don't really want to play it. And I think this is just a kind of like a repercussion of such a change to the game that everyone's just trying these like picks, these like really annoying picks. Like I think when we played Bolts, I think they had a really good draft, but we didn't know what was coming, right? We hadn't seen them play, and they picked double Odin. They had Odin Morgan, but like we had all these picks that Odin was good into, but like that's only going to work once, right? When you don't know it's coming. Like if we saw them play the week before, then we just draft differently. It's like it's impossible to say. So
yeah,
I think
like
Odin will fall out. Harder than Artemis, I think Odin will fall out, but he'll be like a decent pick.
yeah, Odin will. There have been games in the past where I remember sitting in the green room being like, I know he's old, but like there are 4 characters that get totally owned by the cage. He's not very like good, but the cage will make the other characters eat those characters alive. So like it's funny. I think when you make a sweeping change like the boots change, you see characters legitimately get better because of that change. Like Kali and other hyper carries that are kind of kept at bay due to boots. And then you just see people go, well, the game's real different, so let's play Odin again. Like, and that's where Odin's coming from. So I like Biggie said, people are just reminded of it. Like this god has been there, and it's just been kind of forgotten about. When there's over 100 characters, that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And so, like, yeah, Odin's going to sneak a couple of these, and then if there are 4 characters, they get totally boned by the ring. Pick Odin. But like Biggie said, now that everybody saw it, it's like, oh, I remember. Got it. Okay, don't get Odin, guys. Don't get Odin.
It seems like a god that's pretty easy to deal with, I think, in picks and bans if it's anywhere near close to the meta, right? So
It's like Athena. It's like Athena at the start of the year. Like people were banning her against, like, I was seeing teams that don't even play Athena, and they were getting Athena banned against them. And I'm looking at this and like, these guys not like scrim, or like they not know that this team like does not touch Athena. Like I think like teams are banning against like Leviathans, right? Like they don't play Athena, but they're still just banning her. And then like now like no one touches the god, right? Kinda like Aurora maybe plays it randomly. It's just one of these picks where like people forget how to play and draft against it, like I've said, and then it comes and then it goes. But
Yeah. Let's move on to the next set of the week: the Tartarus Titans versus the Valhalla Valkyries. I know Tom was sort of alluding to this game, saying he thought the Valks looked a lot better versus the Titans here. I definitely want to agree, at least in game one of this set. Game two was a very, very slow. It felt like a classic EU Smite game from my perspective. But game one, I think the Valks actually really start strong, and I think they even had a lead up until, I want to say, maybe 22, 23 minutes, and the Titans are able to just hang in there and come back in the end. Tom, you wanna start us off here with your thoughts on this set?
Yeah, dude, I was excited. Like I said, I mean, I've been real rude about this team, just straight up and down. I've been bad mouthing the guys, like, play the goddamn game, and I felt like they really did. I was impressed. Like, obviously they lost. They're playing on 700 ping, but I feel like, and I don't know what it. People always ask me, like, what's an example, and like, I can't point to a specific thing that goes, that's what makes me think they're just punking around. And likewise, I can't point to a specific thing and go, that's what made me think that they are absolutely trying. But just after like years of watching Smite, like you can just sort of tell. And like this really, it just felt like they put their best foot forward. I liked Raffer on the Kuzenbo. I think Kuzenbo is really like a Raffer style character, even though we don't always see him like opt for that character. It felt like Johnny got a chance to do some Johnny things, like Emil. Like honestly, what it felt like Biggy said before, this is a team that Johnny needs to just like, be Rocket Man to the moon. And Johnny got off to a good start, and everybody must have like got a boner. It was like, all right, dude, we can. Are we doing this? And then they didn't. But that happens to the best of us. And I think that the Valks like gave it a shot, and I was real impressed. So. I don't apologize for what I've been saying, but I'm very happy and excited to turn my opinion around and see some good stuff on the side of the Valks.
Sure. Totally, your thoughts?
I think Benji had a good performance on the Hercules. In game number one, Valkyries did show up a little bit. It would have been better, obviously, if Ducky didn't give up first blood to Benji's Hercules, which was completely preventable. If, like, you saw it, he, like, turns around for a basic attack, which actually allows him to get Tower Dove as a result. And then Benji just rotates afterwards. Like, nothing was going to stop him. Stop a Hercules and stop Benji's Hercules. It's just not happening. It was a nice little change of pace, I think, to see them in this second set than the previous first set. But they still, I think, are not really entirely sure of their identity. Like, Tsukiyomi out of Johnny was, I think, a good little touch of change. But compared to his other days of the Yao Kwang, it's like a different play style, right? We want to see maybe the Kali out of him. But the Suki, especially when you're playing on the ping, that is a difficult god to play on that ping, right? Like hitting the stun, hitting your ulti, especially from a long range, is not easy.
Biggie, how about you?
I don't think I watched this set, to be honest. I don't know.
No, that's okay.
I wouldn't blame you.
Yeah.
I think I maybe watched a bit of the end of the second game, but I mean, it's just kind of what I expected. I mean, I'm not surprised that maybe Valkyries put up a fight against Titans in the early game. I think Titans are being inconsistent, especially in the regular season. They're just a playoffs team again, I think, in my opinion. Where I think, for me, it doesn't matter like what Titans do as long as they finish top 6. Then I'll like start worrying about the Titans,
Sure.
And then Jean Kui just lost again, so.
Why the hate for the big man? Why the Jean Kui hatred?
Hey, if you're gonna keep losing, I think you maybe probably deserve some hate. That's that's the correlation I'm seeing here.
I just there's like a bunch of, I mean, there's like 3 or 4 like OP gods, right? Like I just don't get what Zhang does. Like he's so easy to kill, and yeah, it's like he does a lot of damage, but so does any mage with 6 items, right? Like Agni does a lot of damage with 6 items. I don't know.
That's fair.
But then
That's
you're
fair.
just Zhong sitting in the mid lane the whole game,
Yeah.
like, and you're like going this guy, and you're just like waddle, and then you throw a card, and you're like, okay, I'm coming. Like, why not just be like Raijin and just dash on them and then beat the drum, you know?
That's
Yeah,
fair.
he kind of struggles in the sense of like poking from long range or a
Mhm.
safe range, right? Like you can throw a card over the wall, right? Like his other abilities don't really go through walls, whereas like a lot of other mid mages have those abilities and they're leveling them up, right? Jean-Qui doesn't level the card right away. I guess you could level it up right away for the poke, but you're generally wanting to stay safe in the lane, so you kind of want that heal. So it's kind of like a catch-22. What do you go for?
I don't get the Heimdall. Like, this seems like I'm always the one to say, like, itemization meta doesn't necessarily push characters out, it just brings characters in.
Mhm.
But like Heimdall just seems out of what you want to do here. And like this is one of those takes where I'm like super down to be wrong. I like haven't done any math about it. It just seems like an awkward selection right now. So like, the Vox picked it, but yeah.
I think it was to counter the Izanami Loki stealth, probably, is my best guess.
Well, and also I think
Word.
Heim is probably one of the safer, just under Jingwei in terms of safety in lane, especially from ganks and things like that. So I think maybe, Emilito's been trying to play these safe hunters. We see him play Jingwei all the time. Even, if he's being spicy, he's playing Kronos, but even Kronos has like a get out of jail free card essentially, right? So I think that's probably part of it too. Even though you're right, he doesn't feel particularly effective with, the bow build now or where the ADC meta is currently. I guess that means we're moving on to the set of the week. The Olympus Bolts versus the Jade Dragons. I think this was maybe the only set that went to 3 games, if I'm correct. Yeah.
I think this was the only set of the week, in my opinion. Like,
Yep. That's what it felt like. I watched all 3 days, and it really felt like the only real
And to be honest,
outside of that Titans one.
yeah, and to be honest, even game 1 wasn't super exciting. If I remember correctly, it was a pretty big snowball for the Dragons. And the Bolts only able to get 3 kills in this game to the Dragons 17, and it ends in 20 minutes. I don't know, that's a pretty big stomp, but the Bolts are able to bring it back here, the reverse sweep in the last set of week 3 here. And I think it really looked good from the Bolts. I think there was a lot of great decision making by Lasbra in sort of these engages, especially around Fire Giants and Gold Furies. I think they basically were winning these games, fighting at these objectives, and spamming VVVA saying set up an ambush, and they were just ambushing the Jade Dragons at Gold Furies and Fire Giants, I feel like, in both of these next 2 games.
yeah, I think for me, what makes me think that the Bolts have like really turned a corner, and I mean, obviously the top right now, but like maybe for like a long-term like top 2 team is, I think Bolts have had glimpses before, and then they kind of like they just kind of slip, like I think last split they were looking really good, and then we owned them in like 2 25-minute games, and it's like, oh, it's the Bolts, but like for them to get stomped game 1, we were like, oh, okay, here we go, like Dragons are back, they're playing sick, Bolts are just, it's going to be a 2-0. But then they adjusted well, I think, in their picks, and I think they tried 1 or 2 new things, kind of random picks, and they like really brought it back, and they had a tough game 3 as well, I think, if I remember correctly. So for me, that's what makes me think like, okay, yeah, these guys are the best in the league right now, and they're probably like one of those teams kind of where they've put in the effort for 2 years, basically stuck together, minus like I think like changing this whole lane a couple times, and they've got a really good kind of foundation and structure in their team, and they're kind of here to stay, I guess, now.
So yeah, game number 1, I think a lot of it was the Yamoja there from PBM, and then I like how the Bolts adapted to it by first picking it right away, leaving Giannis and Sol on the table to get picked. But for whatever reason, and Big, I was going to ask you this question: why did the Dragons pick in the Fafnir when it was so obvious that the Yamoja was already there for the support? Like, couldn't they pick it at least in that 3rd pick before the secondary ban phase? And then they give up the Sol, and Vinay just like pops off completely.
Which game?
Game
2?
Yeah, because Dragons, they gave up
Oh
the
yeah.
and then they pick in the Fafnir Giannis instead of the Sol Giannis, which to me, with how game 1 felt and
Yeah.
both of the teams drafted, it felt like those were the top 3 picks after
Well,
bans.
Panda just doesn't want to play Soul, right? Like, I think that's it. Maybe they could have taken Soul and just like they did. I think game 3 they didn't take Janus, they took Soul. Maybe they could have tried that, but I just think Panda's not a Soul player, I guess. Or he
That's
doesn't
fair.
want to play it in the meta. I'd assume that's why.
Well, outside of that, why would you like reveal your Fafnir right away, right? Like when Yamoja's already locked in for support. I don't feel like there's an immediate rush towards picking the Fafnir there, or did they just want to kind of hide other picks?
I think they just like I think it's something that happens a lot where they just value other picks. He's probably thinking in his mind like right now the way the meta's going, he's like, I'm playing Fafnir no matter what. Like that's what I think is the best. Like if I don't get Yamoja here, I'm getting Fafnir. That's the best Guardian in my opinion. And so then he's like, I'm gonna pick it anyway, so just give it a like. Maybe they could have prioritized the Erlang, but I don't think Dragons ever really prioritized their jungler that highly, like ever. But I think that's why he picked it there. No one else. I mean, it's the classic like when you scrim, does anyone want to guard? And everyone's like, I kind of want to wait. So it's like, okay, I guess.
Yeah.
And usually the support ends up like blind picking their pick, right? Kind of.
That's a good point that you mentioned about the Erlang, because like game number 1, we saw Sam like do a good job on that Erlang shot, and the game was like a 20-minute stomp. It felt like, so maybe it was too casual for them. They were like, oh, I don't want to play Erlang again. Let me just pick something else, and didn't have the same kind of results on the Hun Bats in game 2.
Yeah, I think that draft definitely dropped tempo, early game tempo from like game 1 to 2, and maybe that's kind of what was their downfall.
Yeah, I hate to hate on Sam here because I love the guy, but man, there was a Fear No Evil at the end of game 2 that just missed everybody. It was, I
I
mean,
remember that one.
it was so memorable that I have to bring it up here because
And you can't blame Ping on that one.
yeah, I can't blame Ping on that one.
Yeah, I don't know. I think this is less a story about the Dragons kind of dropping it, and more like Biggie said, like the Bolts have just really turned the corner. I think 2 of the big deals. Barracuda's been like ramping back to like old school, like poster child of the league level of play over the past like couple of seasons. I think. Lasbra got ruined by somebody that. Welcome to the Pro League. You're playing a different position now. And like that was terrible. And he's been fighting his way out of that hole since then. And has like changed his play style from the old style that he used to fit around this team. And Venenu, I have always thought of as extraordinarily average. He has like these moments where he looks really good, but in general is just like the quintessential serviceable professional level mid laner. And this season and a little bit of last season, he has absolutely turned up and become somebody really scary. And that's not really how I used to think of Nunu. So watching him kind of do it has been fun. And I think it's the combo of mid solo feeling comfortable about themselves and really bringing it home around everybody else that's already doing it. And like, yeah, this is a top team. This is a, I'm not going to put number 1 in concrete, but like, yeah, this is a top end team, and they've turned the corner. I like that phrase. Yeah, absolutely.
Didn't the Dragons only lose to the Scarabs and the Bolts in the first split?
I think so.
Sounds right.
So I have a theory about this actually. So obviously it's the Zapman Kryptonite, right, for that one. And then in this one, I think it's another Kryptonite where it's like Venenu with PBM and Panicat as well, right? Like former teammates back in that season for a United team. Could be something along those lines.
Well, they beat him, so.
I do agree that like Van and Lasser's problem has always been like consistency, right? And I just think they're both having like really insane years, and I think they're really like top players in their role. Where like I think Ven's been around that, and like obviously he's won Worlds and was MVP, but he has been inconsistent a bit maybe. But I think the big thing is like Laspra. Like Laspra's, like you said, he was for some reason put in mid, but like for me, like Laspra kind of becoming really consistent is huge, because I think he is a player that I think cops a lot of shit when that team doesn't win. It's like it's Laspra's fault, everyone's like, oh, Laspra sucks, but like he's actually owning like this year. So
he really is.
in his sets previously, at least in the playoffs, I think against the Dragons, a lot of the bans were targeted towards Lasbra. So if anything, they know who is the biggest teams.
Yeah, it's Lasper is like one of my when he was like ready to come into the league, he was a like hard carry style jungler in the minor league. He was like the guy that you give a carry to and he would like go 5-0 and win you the game. And then idiot boy Shook was like, look at me, I know what I'm talking about, and puts him in the middle lane. And like I think it like really this is conjecture. I have no idea. I haven't talked to Lasper about it. Like I think it shook him a little bit. Like no pun intended. Like I think it like messed with his head. He's like, hey, I'm the hard carry, and now I'm in middle lane, and I suck. And like then you put all your resources and effort into becoming a middle laner, and then it's over, and you're like, all right, I'm back in jungle, and it's like, all right, let's do it again, boys. Like, and you have a little bit to like relearn, and like it was a big deal. And I think that he's just now like coming in. You know, it's been a year plus,
Yeah.
and like he's just now coming into it. And I think that that's again, people underestimate like how hard it is to be a professional player. Like that's, you know, as a top guy that like took 2 steps backwards and he took his 2 steps forward now here in 2021 after, you know, kind of ride the bike for a little bit. So I am it's cool to see this all come together and everything, but like on an individual level, I am very, very happy to see Lasbra doing it. Like I'm just it makes me happy.
Yeah.
It does make me happy.
Yeah.
I think
Switching.
he's. Oh, sorry. I think Lasper is just like if you compare like a lot of players, I think Lasper is just a product of really hard work. Like I remember back when I was on Dig and he was our sub, and like he was a bit of an idiot, obviously, like he still is. But when we were living in Denmark and I was on Dig, me and Harry and Trix and Fred, we'd go out and we'd be like, "Yo, come on, man!" And he would like never, like he would never come out and drink. Like he would stay home and stream, and like he was really committed. And then all he wanted to do was get in the SPL, right? And so like eventually he got his shot, and like I just think like he's just been grinding. He's put in so much work with his stream, and now he's like flipped, right? Like he was kind of like this SML player stream, and he's like, I'm gonna stream all the time, and now he's like kind of stopped streaming as much, and he's just so committed, like, and I think that he wasn't one of those players where like I feel like Johnny, for example. Everyone talks about Johnny's like, oh, he's sick. Like, I don't think people talked about Lasper like that. Even when he was like dominating SML, right? Dominate on Insignum, or no one was like, oh, it's Lasper. Everyone was like, oh, so and so is like good, but like, so like Lasper has really had to work hard to prove himself, and like he's kind of there now, you know.
He's been Kuvo's friend for a long time, so it's
Yeah.
cool to see him finally be Lasbra.
This week, I had the pleasure of sitting down with Jarcorr, the ADC for the Atlantis Leviathans, to talk about Phase 1 and Phase 2, and look back on his Smite career on the whole as well. Check it out. Hey guys, I'm here with the ADC for the Atlantis Leviathans, Jarcorr, to talk about Phase 1, Phase 2, and look back on his Smite career on the whole as well. So let's dive right into Phase 1. You moved from solo lane to ADC, and obviously I think in some of the team check-ins you said it wasn't too much of a shift. Do you still feel that way? Is it just, you know, playing different gods in a side lane?
Yeah, I mean, I think the transition like from one side to another is not that like difficult, like you
Mm-hmm.
could say.
Mm-hmm.
I think like you say, you have to like get used to play different like gods. Obviously, like the position and everything that is like new stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like for example, losing your relics, that is like a new thing you have to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you play a tank or a solo laner, you'll be going in.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you're playing a hunter or a mid laner or a carry, in general, you have to be aware of not dying. So
Sure, yeah.
it's like kind of the opposite, but you get the idea of what you really need to do just with time and with practice.
Yeah. Does it feel a bit different having, you know, the support there all the time rather than in solo lane? You guys are left alone just smacking each other for, you know, maybe 15, 20 minutes in a game sometimes, you know,
Yeah,
depending on who the jungler is and things like that. Is it different having, you know, Wrong you there early on in the lane? Has that been something to adjust to?
yeah. I think they have been like fine, really like fun to play with Rongyun lane. I think we like got match like we really understand each other a lot.
Hmm.
So like having him in the lane is, I think, one of the main factors that we are a really good dual lane. I
Sure.
think he knows what to do, and I'm ready to like follow him up. That is how we play the lane,
Yeah, yeah.
and I think it's like more fun because there is like two people trying to do something more than, like you said, like the same guy hitting the other guy
Hmm.
like for 15 minutes until a jungle gang comes and all the stuff. So like there is there is like more room to do plays
Sure.
when you
Yeah.
are two people on that side of the map more than just one.
Yeah. Do you like making early game plays? I imagine this is mostly in the early game where you have the ability to make plays in the duo lane. Because as you get into the mid game, the support probably rotates out. Do you like making plays early on in the game? Is that something you enjoy?
Yeah, I one of the things that I have found like is really good in order like to play games properly is like you always have the control of the game in
Hmm.
one way or another.
Yeah.
Like for example, if you want to invade like this buff, get the pressure before that and all the stuffs. So like in order to do that, you have like to be like making plays like before that. Like I don't know,
Hmm.
I want to invade this buff, so I'm gonna call on you to blink in and force half of the HP or maybe some beats or
Sure.
maybe
Yeah.
some relics before we do something. So that is like always like a good way to play the game, and we love to like just force and try to like know what our picks does and
Hmm.
just push that to the limits. That is the way that we see things, and that is like the way we try to do stuff. So
Sure. Sure. Has there been a learning curve in maybe figuring out the duo lane matchups or maybe the ADC matchups? Because I think there is a lot of counter picking that sometimes happens between the ADC roles, especially as we move closer to tournaments and lands and things like that. Has that been something that you've had to work on?
yeah, of course, like finding what picks are good against the others is really one of the things that you will get used to by just playing a lot of the game.
Mm-hmm.
So there is like certain matchups that are like favorable, like you will win this matchup if you pick this god, for example. And there is times when you really need to like get like the whole picture of what is going on in
Mm-hmm.
any draft in order like to pick your god. Because like I don't know, maybe you have like a good ADC matchup, like I don't know, just like for certain example that I don't think did work this way like in this patch,
Mm-hmm.
like Artemis against Anhur, for example. That
Mm-hmm.
is like a really good matchup for Anhur. It used
Hmm.
to be.
Yeah.
So, but there is like certain gods that are really good against Anhur, for example. So, like learning all those stuff and when you really need to pick your character and what you're gonna do and what is like the thing that will be forcing you out in fights, it's really helpful and you will get like a lot of things and you will learn a lot from like just doing basic stuff of like forcing you into a bad matchup, for example,
Mm-hmm.
because like they could be like a good or bad ADC matchup, but you really need to be aware of who the jungler is, like or who the support is, because even though it's a
Okay.
1v1 in lane, maybe
Hmm.
most of the time it's not. Like
Sure. Sure.
in SPL or in high level gameplay, that is really weird that you will be having a 1v1 against the ADC. There is always someone around. So
Give me a second here. My cat is being annoying. Come on, cute cat. Oh, yeah, sit there. Good job. All right. Sorry about that.
it's fine, it's fine.
I wanted to ask a little bit about Phase One playoffs. I don't think obviously it wasn't the outcome that you guys expected. I'm sure you guys were hoping to make the finals and probably win the tournament overall. Can you talk a little bit about what changes from the regular season to tournament time for this team? Because we've sort of seen over the past 2 years now that you look great. You guys look great in the regular season, but the tournaments come and it still just seems to be missing something. Can you talk a little bit about what happens there or how you guys feel about that?
Yeah, he's. I mean, it's a thing that is like still happening, but I don't know how like to like say it because like every single time we play online, we are like doing our things. Like we
Yeah.
just play the game as we used to do. And maybe when it's tournament time, there is like a few factors always when there is a tournament, there is like certain picks that start being like played during the
Hmm.
tournament, for
Hmm.
example, and maybe most of the time we are like not aware of what is going on. And
Mm.
in these last playoffs, I don't know, we really have a good game one. I remember.
Sure. Yeah, I remember that too.
Yeah, we have a really good game one. I was saying that I think we can win this, even 3-2 or 3-0 or 2-1 or
Hmm.
whatever. And then things just start falling apart, and like, the other team like start gaining momentum, just playing better, having like better decisions all around the map.
Hmm. Hmm.
And in like a blink on an eye, you just lose the game. So
Sure. Yeah.
I think that is a thing that happen a lot in tournament gameplay, and that is why maybe we kind of like struggle a lot,
Mm. Mm.
because we like it's hard like for us to
Of
recover.
course. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
and it's a good sign that you're recognizing some of these issues, right? Because the first way
yeah,
to, fix things is to know what you need to fix, right?
yeah, that's true.
I wanted to start talking a little bit about phase two. You guys definitely start out really strong. You guys have wins. I think your first three sets are wins, but unfortunately, Julio gets suspended, and you drop this latest set to the Titans. Can you talk a little bit about this Julio suspension and what how you guys are dealing with this internally? For the next couple weeks. I'm not sure exactly when he's going to be back.
We have been just talk about it. Like
Hmm.
it's all really like little bad situation for us.
Hmm. Hmm.
Not for him, just for us. Like here, him not be able to play. It's not that he like. I mean, it was like a okay decision that the what happened,
Hmm.
because I'm agree with the decision that they made, but it's really like just screw us a lot,
Sure. Yeah.
because I mean, we have been like winning. We have a really good streak, and I think we could have won that game against the Titans,
Hmm.
or at least be able to play the game. I think
Hmm.
that's the most important thing, even if you lose, because those matches we we weren't able to play the game,
Hmm.
because there is like that confidence missing.
Sure.
That I mean, everyone was like shocked about what is going on.
Hmm.
It was
Hmm.
it was like a last minute thing too.
Hmm.
Maybe if we like got like notice a day before or two, maybe we had a plan or something to
Sure.
do in that set. But yeah, it was like really bad for us. But we're gonna recover
Hmm.
from that. We are gonna see what's going to happen and just take a decision from that.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
we're gonna just keep trying, and we have time now, and we will figure it out what is going on, and we just gonna try to take the best decision and do what is better for the team.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. I think you guys definitely have a lot of team cohesion. I think so. I imagine
Yeah,
that sorting this out is, you're just gonna roll with the punches, whatever comes.
yeah,
I did want to ask you about the midseason patch. We've seen, a lot of changes here to the duo lane. A new camp. The Draugr is there. There's this new support buff now that, I guess supposedly helps all these other buffs. I don't know. I'm not seeing a lot of supports pick up the buff, so I don't know what's going on. Um, what are your major thoughts on this patch? I don't want you to, of course, give anything away that you don't think is feel free to keep things in the secret. But how do you feel, yeah, about the dual lane, especially these changes? Does it make it more interesting for you, or are you
yeah,
not too excited by it?
yeah. I think one of the most fun things about this game that I have found like I really enjoy is when these changes come through,
Mm.
because like, I mean, there is times when you play this game for that long that you feel you are playing the same game,
Hmm. Hmm.
like you're actually playing the same game, but like every single patch or every single chief in certain gods or items, it really gives like a fresh start to the game. And in this mid-season patch, there is like a lot of things to learn. There is, I think, we are like 2 weeks, maybe
Hmm.
three, into
Two.
the
Yep.
SPL, and I feel like there is people that still tasting wheels. That
Sure.
there is not one like IDC wheel or mid build. There is
Hmm.
like a lot of testing, a lot of people like trying things out, seeing
Hmm.
if they work, if it doesn't. And I think that is really fun to the game in general, and for us, like this is our job, So
Yeah.
I enjoying what you do with these changes is a really good thing, and I
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
been like enjoying a lot playing the like this a really new map.
Hmm.
it's
Yeah.
it's really new.
Yeah.
Then there is like a few things that we're like thinking about. But like right now we didn't have like anything like crazy. As
Mhm,
you was thinking like our secret.
mhm.
We're just trying to figure out things at our time and seeing what is better, what it works, and we're gonna try do what we think is good with time. But
Yeah.
we actually don't know that many things yet. So
I think a lot of teams are in that same position. A lot of teams are still testing things out. It usually
yeah,
takes more than 2 weekends on the patch for the meta to sort itself out and everything. So I think if you're testing, I think that's basically where most of the other teams in the league are as well.
yeah,
Your team, before it made the SPL, was essentially playing in LATAM and in the LATAM scene. Can you talk a
yeah.
little bit about the LATAM scene and how they maybe take things from the SPL, or the difference between the LATAM scene and NA scene, because now you've had 2 years to play sort of NA ranked and things like that. We hear, I think a lot of people maybe um, are not the biggest fans of the LATAM scene in general. People who play in NA, just
Yeah.
seeing the Twitter and things like that. But as guys who sort of grew up in that region and playing the game, down there, can you provide some insight into that and how it maybe is a little bit different than what happens here in NA?
Yeah, like about what you were saying, like people really have like about like I don't know,
Impression?
like yeah, like about impression or like about way to see things
Mm-hmm.
when you talk about someone that is from Latam, and I think we're like the proof of that. Like we we are like really good at this game, and we are not NA or we are not from Europe or anything like that. So like people get like the idea that the best players come for certain regions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think we're like the proof itself that it's not that way. Like it doesn't even matter for where you are or who you are or
Mm-hmm.
what do you do. Like in order if you take things as seriously and you green the game, you can be good at that. Like I don't know
Yeah.
why we see because I see those things that you're saying
Yeah.
on Twitter too. And I think one of the like biggest difference between like regions of that is that people in Latam didn't used to take like that's like things that serious as
Mm-hmm.
we do here in NA or in any other region.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like there back home, most of the people just take it as a game. Like they're just
Sure.
playing a game. It's a side thing. We're gonna be chilling, have fun, and if we win, we win, and if we lose, we lose. Most
Yeah.
of the people used to be like that. I mean,
Sure. Sure.
there is obviously some exceptions.
Right.
There is obviously a lot of players that really want to win and have the opportunity to prove themselves. But most of the people weren't like that. So didn't have the enough commitment in order to compete in
Mhm.
leagues in bigger leagues. So that is why I think happen what it happens. Like
Yeah.
because it used to be like international regions and pretty sure they took that decision in order seeing how those regions did like every single time poorly
Hmm.
when it comes like to wars, for example.
Right.
So if people are not like taking things as seriously or then like proving they can be as good as the others,
Hmm.
it's like no point trying to support those regions.
Sure.
I mean,
Sure.
it's obviously sucks
Yeah.
because I know there is players and teams that were really good
Hmm.
and have a lot of potential in order to prove things.
Hmm.
But I think like a general thing, it was that what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think you
So
guys are, showing up great for the LATAM region, North and South America here. Being basically one of the top two teams in the league for, I think, ever since you guys have been in the SPL, right?
yeah,
So I think you guys are really proving a lot of the haters wrong here. All right, so interview is over now, and now is the time for your, where I give you the spotlight here and ask if there's anyone you want to call out. Any beef you're trying to start. I'm just trying to stir the pot a little bit. And if there's no one you're trying to call out or anything like that, please give some shout outs. And, thank you so much for joining me, Jarcorr.
yeah. But I wanna just say thank you for inviting me. I don't think I will have like any beef starting right now.
Not going to call
And
anyone a tower boy?
no. We don't do that. We don't do that here. So
Sure.
I just wanna say thank you and we wanna keep seeing people supporting the Leviathans.
Yeah.
I love when I see people saying "Let's go" or "Vamos" or buying our merch or people wearing our jerseys and that really make me happy. So if you keep doing that, please be sure to post a pic on Twitter because I'll be happy to see it. So
Yeah. Yeah, be sure to get your SPL merch at shop.spikeproleague.com. There's
yeah,
great merch from all the teams. I'm rocking a nice Leviathans hoodie like Jarcorr is too. We're matching
yeah,
today. So go and support your favorite teams and players. Remember that I think 100% of the proceeds from the merch and even the
yeah.
in-game cosmetics go to the players. So, it's a
That's true.
great way to directly support uh, the teams that you want to support. All right, Yarkor, thank you so much for joining me. It was a great conversation, and I wish you and your team the best of luck for the rest of Phase 2 and heading off in the Worlds.
Thanks.
All right, it's time now for us to make our picks for Week 4 of Phase 2. Let's start with the Atlantis Leviathans versus the Camelot Kings. F. Dot, do you want to start us off here? Who you got in this set?
I reasonably would say the Leviathans, but looking at like things being shaken up and changes, I think that does give the Kings a more a way on in there. I say 3 games Leviathans.
Ooh, 3 games Leviathans. Biggie, I'm imagining you're going Kings 2-0 on this one.
Yeah, I think it's a set that for us, I would say usually we shouldn't necessarily like win if they had their full strength roster, but I think now regardless of like whether they use a sub, I mean if they use their coach then like
Yeah.
it'd be kind of easy, but if they have a sub or like whatever happens, then we should be winning this set. It would be a good gauge for us to see how good we are. I think right at the moment this set.
Totally.
So I'd say 2, yeah.
Yeah, totally. Who you got in this one?
I'm gonna actually have to give it to the Kings as well, simply because even if some of the roster rumors are true, I think like jumping into it right away with that full roster might take some time and growing pains. If they do pull it off against the Kings, then more power to them. That would be a pleasant surprise, I think, for a lot of the Leviathans fans that get to see this new roster. But I think safe money is going to be Kings. I'm going to give it 2-1 though to the Kings.
Sure. All right, let's move on to the next set of the week. The Oni Warriors versus the Solar Scarabs. Biggie, you want to start us off on this one? Who you got between the Warriors and the Scarabs?
Smiled. That's always dangerous.
I mean, if the Warriors don't win this set, then they suck. That's all I'll say.
All right. Tully, who you got in this one? Warriors versus Scarabs.
Not as harsh words against Oni Warriors, but I do predict them to win here. I think that Solar Scarabs are going to be in a similar spot to the Leviathans, where it's going to be some growing pains with some people potentially moving around, maybe some new people, maybe their coach playing. We'll see when we see, but I'm 2-0 definitely for the Oni Warriors.
And I'm not saying like the whatever roster they feel the players are bad on Scarabs. I just think with the week and a half that they've been through, they should not be in a good place. I think the Warriors should be in a better place to perform and beat that team to her, like based on all the changes and also like all the drama, Like I think the Scarabs have missed a bunch of practice. They've probably practiced with a few different versions of their roster in the last week and a half, so they will not. I don't think they'll be up to like beat the Warriors unless they just randomly whip out little honeymoon phase something and perform an upset.
I thought, how about you? Who you got in this one?
I'm bugging out. No, I'm just kidding.
I think Warriors tour.
I really love the Scarabs. I've loved the Baronic story. Seeing layers and everybody come up has been. I've been asking for it for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Similar to how the Leviathans move his player here, the core is there. They've been around the block for a while, so I think that even with a change here or there, they can keep on keeping on. This is the opposite. This is a rookie team, even with old man Zap there, like this is a rookie team. This is a squad that like is newer to this whole world. And like the idea that they're going to be able to just like shift out this player and shift in this guy and, between SOT, like personal issues off the court, and then you have issues on the field with some other players. It's just a lot to deal with. And, like Biggie said, with all of this stuff going on, how much you actually like locking in the books and doing the work. And so, one, I think they probably just have had other things going on. They probably haven't been like rocking it. And if they have, how valuable has that practice actually been? And two, this is a team that I don't think is as adept at tucking and rolling as a team like the Leviathans or something. So for similar reasons, I kind of go the other way. If the Warriors lose this, they're probably not very good at the game.
Yeah, yeah.
I think the final thing is like we're also 2.5 weeks into a completely new meta, so to be changing like I think there's a good idea. Like I think before we played bolts, I had no idea what was good. Like I think we drafted like absolute kind of dog in those games because like we didn't know what we were doing. And even now, like we have a bit more of an idea, but we don't know completely yet. And I think that is also like just another kind of rough situation for the Scarabs. Like they have if they have different players or player like playing a different role, then it's like, what does this guy want to play? Is that even good? We don't know yet. So
Yeah.
just not a nice situation to be in.
Sure. Well, I'm ever the optimist here, so I'm obviously taking the Solar Scarabs for a 2-0 here, you know? Watch me get my, what is it called? Fantasy points, right? Are they still called fantasy points in Smite? I forget.
I don't know, man.
All right, let's
You'll
move
get
on.
something.
I think you're
Yeah,
living
get
in a
something.
fantasy, but okay.
Let's move on to the next set of the week here. The Bolts versus the Leviathans. Toli, why don't you start us off here on the Bolts versus the Leviathans?
So similar story to Leviathans versus Kings. I think this one is going to be even more difficult for Leviathans. With how consistent Bolts have been playing, I think that Bolts showed us a little bit of a spicy meta, like in their last set up against the Scarabs, considering that they were experimenting around on a freebie set. So I think they're going to come in feeling pretty good and fresh, and they're going to have intel on what the Leviathans roster is and what they pick, what they build. So I'm going to give it to the Bolts 2-0.
Bolts 2-0 from Toli. F Dot, how about you?
Bolts 2-0.
All right. Bolts 2-0 from F Dot. Biggie?
Yeah, I think Julio's kind of screwed him over a bit here. Like, not only this last week, but also like this would be such a big week for them. And if they had their full roster and they could have beat Titans, bring some momentum into this week, it's kind of like, yeah, maybe just leave people's houses alone, man. I don't know.
Yeah, man. It's like it sucks. Leviathans are supposed to be like the thing, and like Julio screwed this up. You know, that's the thing. Things are bigger than yourself, and you really screwed this up. So it's easy. This is Bolts 2-0.
Yeah, I agree.
I think the question is more about like, you know, what ridiculous picks will we see? Like, are we going to see something wild? Because, this is the free space in the middle of the bingo card, dude. There's no way you lose this. If we're going to say if the Warriors don't win against the Bugs, that they're not good at the game. If the Bolts lose, I mean, I don't know. Like, I'll shave my head. Like, it's just not going to happen. So.
Hey, don't promise that. F Dot, anything can happen. Someone's going to hold you accountable, okay? I don't want to see you lose your lovely locks there. All right, let's stick with you here, F Dot, on the next set of the week. The Jade Dragons versus the Camelot Kings. Who you got in this one?
Ooh, a real set. Excitable. This one's very interesting. I think a lot of it has to do with how well the Kings do in their first matchup. And I think this one comes down to the drafts. I think the Kings and the Dragons are more evenly matched than people want to give the Kings credit for. A lot of people just want to come out here and root for the arm sleeve, but I think that the Kings are, one, improved over the course of the year. Nice job, Biggy. And two, I think that like the Dragons have like not slipped, but they were perhaps overperforming and are now a little bit more realistic. And so I think this is a big set for the Kings. And I think similar to how this is a big week for the Leviathans, this is a big week for the Kings as well. And I think Kings take this in 3 games, 2 of which are very close.
Biggie, who you got in this one? I'm sure it's a Kings win.
Yeah, of course. the kind of cringe for them if they don't beat us. We have 2 people on high ping, so a lot of pressure on them to beat us. I think Dragons are weird. I think they're obviously maybe not playing as well as they have been previously, but I think they are still figuring out what they want to play. Like for me, like going into this week, I'm like, okay, I know what Leviathans are doing. It's like you always know what Leviathans are doing, right? You just have to show up and beat them. That's the thing with them. They practice what they play, and they practice really hard, and then they play really well with it, right? Dragons are a bit like they don't really like to scrim dragons. They're kind of like they'll pick random picks all the time, and even in SPL they don't really like stick to a tier list. So for me, it's like, what have they got? Have they got anything like up their sleeve, or like some counter picks or something? But then you also have to play really well to beat them, and this is probably our best chance this year to beat them. So I think 2-1 is realistic. 2-0 is a possibility as well, though, to us.
Yeah. Totally?
I think that the Drain Dragons are coming off the last set angry.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they have more motivation going into this set, unless it depends obviously what happens in the Kings versus Leviathans set. Dragons are going to have intel a little bit on what Kings ran there, but I think that that's a very specific set that Kings are not going to replicate in the set against the Dragons. They're going to have their picks and bets for that set and a different one here, so it might be fresh. So I think this could actually go either way. And I'm going to give it only to the J Dragons simply because I think that they're just going to have a bounce back week.
Mm-hmm. Okay. J Dragons versus Kings. Man, I don't know. I think this is probably a flip of the coin type of game, It could go one way or the other, just depending on how the chips fall and things like that. So it's going to be probably the best set of the week. All right, let's move on to the next set here. The Scarabs versus the Valks. From maybe the top of the league down to some of our underperforming teams here between the Scarabs and the Valkyries. Biggy, you want to start us off here? Who you got in this one?
Honestly, I would watch this set though. Honestly, watch this set.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I need to think about this.
You want us
I'll
to?
go.
You want
I
to come
want
back?
to say Valkyries. I still think Scarabs win. I don't know, man. Like 2-1 maybe. Yeah, let's go with that.
Sure. After you said you wanted to go.
Yeah, I echo that. I think the Valkyries are just the team that you have to beat to be a professional level team. I think the Valkyries still beat whoever is out there watching this. You and your 4 best friends are going to lose against the Valkyries. Let's just be completely honest about this. You're not beating the worst NBA team in a game of pickup. You're not beating the worst SPL team on high ping. It's just not going to happen. So you've got to. This is the whatever changes the Scarabs wind up making. This is where they get to. I use the phrase litmus test a lot. This is where they get to see all right, we've made our garam masala. How tasty is the curry, right? That's what we get to see here. Either they're good enough to beat the Valkyries, and they're a good enough pro level team, or they are not, and they need to keep making changes essentially. So I still go 2-1 here. I go Scarabs 2-1, and that's giving the Valkyries all the credit in the world for the way they've picked up last week, and taking into account the massive amounts of minuses that the Scarabs are coming in, because
Tell me who you got in this one. Scarabs
So
versus
I
the
think
Valks.
whichever team wins this is going to have a huge confidence boost going into it. The one X factor is obviously the rumored roster changes that we're probably going to be seeing out of the Scarabs. So for that reason, I'm actually going to go with the Valkyries, right? They are keeping their roster intact. They have shown a little bit sign of life in their previous week. I'm hoping for them that it's going to translate into a first victory. Because did they win a single set? They did win a single set in the first phase, right?
Yep.
Yeah. It was against
The Oni Warriors, I believe they 2-0'd them.
Yeah, they beat
two of
Warriors,
phase
I think, early in the first. They're actually playing really well at the start of the first split. They were taking games off Dragons and stuff, and
Yeah,
they
they
won a
were.
set, and then-
So for that reason, I'm giving it to the Valkyries 2-0.
2-0 for the Valks there.
That's the spicy one.
That is the
The
spicy
Scarabs
one.
aren't getting a single win. Yeah, for that
Oof.
one.
Man. Yeah, I mean, like you said, if the Scarabs lose this, it really has got to be like a shot in the arm at the very least, right? Like you gotta figure out a way to. You gotta ping diff up, right? At least. I don't know. So yeah, it's that is a rough. You gotta win this.
SOT needs a shot in the arm.
I think he actually got the shot in the arm, so he's good to go. All right, Totally. Why don't you round us out here for the last game in week 4, which is the Oni Warriors versus the Tartarus Titans.
Tartarus Titans have been looking a little bit better than the Oni Warriors. I think it also is like we'll see a little bit of how they perform against the Solar Scarabs, but when Oni Warriors aren't behind early, they seem to be doing really well in their sets. So, and Titans is a team that will pressure you early. So I'm kind of thinking that Titans are going to pick a draft where Aurora's going to be rotating around and looking for some aggressive play. So I'm going to have to actually give it to the Titans in this set 2-0.
Who you got in this one? Oni Warriors versus Tartarus Titans.
Me?
I said F dot, but you can go, Biggie.
I didn't hear what you said.
Okay.
I didn't hear either.
I mean, I would like to see Warriors win because those are like my boys. But I do think the Titans are playing better at the moment. And it's kind of like a big set for both teams, right? It's like if Titans lose this set, then it's like, okay, it's a regular season Titans again. But if Warriors win, it's like, okay, maybe they're kind of turning a corner and they're that like 5th place, potentially 4th place team. So I think Titans 2-1, just based on form right now.
F dot, finish us up here.
I honestly, again, echo exactly what Biggie said. I would like for Dardas' team to win. I like when that team does well. I find it very, very difficult to root against Cuvo Fred ever. And frankly speaking, I really like Ronnie Belair. And boy, do I dislike Scary D. Like, I don't think he's a strong jungler, but the players around him have been playing well, and he has had his moments lately, and that has lifted the Warriors up to a certain extent. I think this is a 3-game set. I'm not ready to commit to the Titans. I think the Warriors take this in 3.
Warriors in 3, okay. I think that rounds us out here for week 4 of phase 2. Thanks for watching the SPL Rundown this week. Be sure to catch us every week before the SPL on twitch.tv/SmiteGame. And if you want to catch past episodes or some extended cuts, be sure to catch our YouTube, APAM Productions on YouTube, and give us a like and subscribe. That really helps us out. If you have any ideas for future guests, feel free to DM me on Twitter @APAM2 or @APAM Productions. Finally, I want to give a huge shout out and thanks to my wonderful analysts here. Let's give them a chance to shout out their socials here. F dot, why don't you start us out?
Word. Yeah. I'm Tom. I go by F dot on the internet. You can find me twitter.com/F.NY. I stream Smite a fair amount, and you can always catch me catching the games as well. So make sure to check that out. It's FSwag on Twitch. Other than that, shout out my mom, shout out LeBron, shout out the world.
B?
Yeah, I don't really. I just kind of do my own thing. I mean, I troll a bit on Twitter, so you can follow me on Twitter if you like. But yeah, go wild. Biggie_Cole.
Sure. Tully?
You can follow me on twitch.tv/Toli and then twitter.com/IG Anatoliy.
Thanks so much for coming on, guys. And remember, be sure to pick up some Smite game merch at shop.smiteproleague.com. I switched it around there. And support all your favorite players and teams. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys next week.